Wild River by Rodman Philbrick, Chapter 6, The Next Thing. It's tricky getting all of us up to the top of the ravine, one by one. We have no choice but to pitch in and help each other. Even Deke does his part, using his strength to pull us over. Of course, he keeps running his mouth and making fun of whoever happens to be in his sights. Monty, what kind of name is that? You an illegal? Is that why you don't have much to say? She shakes her head, disgusted. Deke has a thing about names, apparently, because he makes fun of mine, too. Daniel the Spaniel, all bark and no bite, he says, pulling me up over the ledge. Leave him alone, Mia says. He was the last one up. That took courage. Who made you the boss? He says with a sneer. Yeah, who? Tony chimes in. I'm going to find shelter, Mia announces firmly. Follow or not, your choice. She hefts the backpack and marches along a path a few yards back from the edge of the cliff. Sky had tossed the pack up to her on the ledge. It was one of the last things he did. I follow, wondering what's in the pack. Clothing? Food? If it's something good, will she share? I'm starving. That's my excuse for having such selfish thoughts. Looking over the cliff edge gives me a bird's eye view of the flood destruction. The riverbed, so clear and perfect on our raft trip, is piled high with broken trees and boulders. So we can't raft our way out of this even if we had a raft, which we don't. Our camping area lies buried under 20 feet of wreckage. The only gear that survived is the backpack Sky handed to Mia, the pack that may have emergency rations. I'm following that as much as I'm following her. So is Amani, a few yards behind me on the path. The next thing makes me forget all about food. A very loud crack that sounds like an echoing rifle shot, only deeper, and a weird shifting under my feet. Run! I scream. Mia has already veered from the path and is sprinting into the trees away from the cliff. We've barely enough time to catch our breath, and once again we're running for our lives. It's not just the ledge that was damaged by the flood. A whole massive section of the sandstone cliff is collapsing, and if we can't get away, can't run deep enough into the woods, we'll plummet into the wreckage of the river below. Run! Chapter 7, Staying Alive. I'm running so fast it feels almost like flying, my feet barely touching the ground. Or maybe that's the ground dropping out from under me, which is so terrifying a thought that I run even faster. Desperate to get ahead of the sickening rumble of the cliff falling away. Raindrops blurring my glasses, flashes of trees and leaves, and Mia a few yards ahead of me, racing for her life, pack bobbing higher than her head. I don't dare look back to see if the others are following us away from the ravine edge. Looking back might make me stop to help, and stopping means dying. And I'm so scared I can't even think about staying alive. Don't die, don't die, don't die. The words on loop screaming in my brain. The rumbling of the collapsing cliff fades away. In the silence that follows, all I can hear is my heart pounding. I made it. I'm alive. And then, with my glasses blurred, I run straight into a tree. Wham! Flat on my back. Behind me, Deke hoots and laughs. Oh, dude, that was perfect. Like a cartoon, the way you bounce backward. Not, are you okay? Or offering to help me up. I roll over, panting and wheezing and spitting out rainwater. Can't even respond to the big jerk because the breath has been knocked out of me. I try to dry my glasses, but it's hopeless. Doesn't matter. We're lucky to be alive, all 5 of us. Mia calls out, Over here! Give me a hand, you guys! Staggering to my feet, I follow her voice. There she is, struggling with the blue tarp taken from the pack. She never quits, Mia. Always thinking ahead, doing what needs to be done. She tosses me a bundle of rope. You've got a jackknife, right? Cut off some lengths and we'll tie this to the tree branches. I swear if I don't get out of this stupid rain, I'm going to melt. Luckily, the jackknife is buried deep in my pocket. A present from my dad, who said it might come in handy. If only he knew. I saw a way cutting the rope into shorter lengths. Amani appears and silently takes some of the cut rope. With shaky hands, we tie one side of the blue tarp to some branches up as high as we can reach. The other side we fasten to a couple of saplings about waist high. The tarp slanting down as the rain runs off. We duck under the tarp, and Mia is grinning at us, me and Amani. We've got a roof over our head, she announces. Very cool. That was smart. I dry my glasses as best as I can and peer out from the shelter. Hey, Deke, Tony, over here, Mia snorts. Who says they're invited? Sky Hansen, I remind her. All for one and one for all. I guess, she says grudgingly. Deke ducks under the tarp and joins us, followed eagerly by Tony, who immediately rubs his hands together and wants to know what's for breakfast. Deke picks up on that and demands to know what's in the backpack. I bet there's trail mix. Here, let me look. Mia snatches it out of his reach. I'll share whatever there is, but this is my responsibility, okay? Not okay. Are you serious? But go ahead and check it. We're all starving. She carefully reopens the chunky backpack and rummages around. Any bacon? Tony asks, making it a joke for Deke's approval. Mia ignores him. There's a lot of usual stuff stowed in the pack: a flashlight, a compass, a fire starter kit, a large clasp knife, 6 metal cups for collecting and drinking rainwater, a space blanket, a first aid kit, and a lightweight 1-quart pan for boiling water. Mia hands each of us a cup. See the lanyard? Clip it to your belt so you don't lose it. No food? Come on! Mia gives us a sly grin and lifts a large, obviously heavy package out of the backpack. Not bacon, she says. Freeze-dried meals, 6 servings per package. Let me see that, Deke demands, reaching out. Mia shakes her head and is about to say something when the sky cracks open. Chapter 8. The lightning must have struck close by, a blinding flash and a blast of thunder so loud, so awesomely huge that it feels like a punch to the chest. A reminder that even though I've been scared for hours, it can always get worse. That just because we survived a massive flood and a collapsing cliff doesn't mean we can't get struck by lightning. One thing I've learned long before this trip is that something bad can happen at any moment, and you never know what it might be. As if to prove me right, a gust of wind rips the blue tarp from the saplings and sets it flapping like some crazy bird. We're instantly drenched. The rain is coming down so hard I can barely see, but I'm pretty sure Mia is shoving stuff into the backpack as she shouts, Grab the ropes! Grab the ropes! Easier said than done. The ropes are whipping around like skinny white snakes, but I finally manage to keep hold of one and Deke has the other. He's laughing like he thinks this is fun. Not me. I feel like we're fighting for our lives, and there's nothing funny about that. But whatever. Between us, we get the tarp under control, and when the wind stops gusting, we tie the tarp to the saplings, and just like that, we have shelter again. That was excellent, Mia says to me and Deke. Teamwork. Yeah, right, Deke says dismissively. What about the food? I'm starving. First things first, Mia says. We need to make a fire so we can boil water. Why can't we just eat it out of the package? Tony wants to know. Because you can't. I read the instructions, okay? We have to add 2 cups of boiling water to the package. Let it sit for 10 minutes, and then we'll have rice and beans with chicken. Amani stands up. The rain is starting to taper off. I'll look for dry leaves and firewood. It's kind of shocking, because those are her first words since the flood. Mia smiles her approval. You should all help Amani, she suggests. I'll check out the fire starting pit. Deke snorts. Who made you boss? I mean, seriously, what makes you think you can tell me what to do? I'm not telling, I'm asking. Don't help if you don't want to. I'm not helping either, Tony chimes in. You're right on, Deke, totally. Who made her boss? Nobody, that's who. I stand up. This is stupid. I'm cold and I'm hungry. We all are. After we've had a hot meal, we can argue about who should be in charge. At first, it's just me helping Amani search for dry firewood, but eventually Deke and Tony pitch in, and it still takes us hours because everything is soaking wet, even though the rain has stopped for the time being. Eventually, Amani comes up with the idea of looking under overhanging rocks, which sounds goofy, but it works because the ground under some of the rocks is still dry, and we're able to gather pine needles and leaves and some small twigs. It takes forever before we have enough to try starting a fire. The hot meal that should have been breakfast or lunch is going to be supper if we're lucky. When we finally have enough kindling and wood, Mia opens the fire starter kit. It contains a box of waterproof matches, a half dozen self-igniting fire starter cubes, and a flint for striking sparks when the other stuff runs out. Mia asks which method we should use. Dick responds by grabbing the matches. 5 minutes later, we have a small but warming fire and 2 cups of rainwater boiling in the pan. Waiting 10 minutes for the freeze-dried meal to soak up the boiling water seems to take forever. My stomach is growling so loud it sounds like I swallowed a puppy. We don't have any plates, so we have to take turns spooning the rice, beans, and chicken chunks out of the pan. In the normal world, I'd never share a spoon. But this is so far from normal that nobody complains. We're too busy wolfing down the food, which tastes delicious, by the way, even if there's not really enough to make us feel full. Break out another package, Deke says, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. I'm just getting warmed up. No, Mia says, hugging the zipped up backpack. We need to ration. Are you insane? Give me that pack, you little jerk. Or else. No. No. One word. That's all it took to start a war. Chapter 9, Freeze-Dried Maggots. In case I forgot to mention, Deke towers over Mia. She's on the small side and he's taller than any of us, and anger seems to make him even bigger. You know what you are, he says, jabbing his finger in her direction. A bossy little know-it-all. Every class has a loser like you, but this isn't school. You can't run to the teacher or complain to the principal. You're not in charge of anything. You're not in charge of me, and for sure you're not in charge of the food. If Mia's scared, she doesn't show it. Why is it that when boys are in charge, they're heroes, but when a girl steps up, she's bossy? Because you are, Tony taunts. If Mia had laser beams for eyes, he'd be a puff of smoke. Whatever, she says. Here's the deal. There are only 12 freeze-dried packets, okay? 11 now that we've eaten one. We don't know how long it will take them to find us. We have to ration 1 meal a day. Deke waves angrily at the cloud-blackened sky. Soon as this blows over, they'll send up helicopters. By this time tomorrow, we'll be heading home. I hope so. I really do. But we can't be sure about that. They don't even know what river we were rafting, remember? This one is 100 miles from where they thought we were going. Not that far. No way. When we found out the first river was dry, we drove for almost 2 hours, remember? Just shut up. They'll find us now. Hand it over. Coach Sky gave me the backpack. It was the last thing he did. He could have given it to you, but he gave it to me. So I'm responsible. Deke clenches his fists. Is he going to hit Mia? If he does, I'll have to stop him, or try my best. But a moment later, he starts chuckling, like everything he just said was meant to be a joke. You know what? I think I lost my appetite. You can keep your stupid freeze-dried food. What flavor is it? Garbage pail? Toilet bowl? That's disgusting, Amani says. How come boys always have to be disgusting? Because it's fun. Tony is gleeful. That wasn't rice, that was freeze-dried maggots. Even Mia laughs at that, because it's true. Maggots do look a bit like rice. Anyhow, all the bad joke relieves the tension, but there's something in Deke's eyes that make me worry it isn't over. No way is he going to back down or let anyone else boss him around. He's still trouble. I'm sure of it. That's how we spend the first night after the flood. 5 of us jammed together under the tarp, trying to stay dry. We take turns using the space blanket because our little fire has gone out, and none of us want to risk searching for dry kindling in the dark. Not with the ravine edge looming. The blanket helps a little, but it isn't really necessary. It's not actually cold, it's just damp and miserable. The choice is to keep lying on the wet ground or sitting up. I choose sitting up, with my back against the tree the tarp is tied to. I keep nodding off, but not deep enough to be satisfying restful sleep. It doesn't help that Tony is snoring like an outboard motor. My brain is jagged with stuff to worry about. Things back home, mostly, which is weird because here we are, lost in the wilderness without enough to eat and no idea how to get back to civilization. But I can't help worrying about my dad, who has a mental illness, bipolar. Sometimes he gets these wild thoughts like he has an idea that's going to change the world, and he doesn't sleep for days. Then he crashes and just lies in bed and feels sad and depressed. Mostly his medication helps him keep on level, but not always. I hope me missing doesn't freak him out or trigger an episode, which makes it all the more important for us to find a way out of the situation, so I can let my family know I'm okay. Deke may have a plan to make himself boss, but I've got a plan too. Not to be the leader, I couldn't care less about that. A plan to stay alive, a plan to rescue ourselves.